Well, greetings, Carl.
Hello, Michael. How are you? Which number blue shirt is that? Is that number seven? Or is that number eight? What's the deal?
I don't number them because
How do you
because
keep
then I
track of
would
when you replace them? Do you
then I
just
would feel compelled to keep track of the numbers and like sequence them when I hang them because then like my neuroticism kicks in. Like it's not good. So, no, just
sorry, I asked.
there's a sufficient number in the closet so that I can always pack however many I
No, this
need.
is this is actually a serious question. How, because I'm doing this with my socks right now. How do you know when do you replace them all at once? Is it like on a time? Is it a time-based rebalancing or is it trigger point?
Oh no, it's trigger point. I like
Okay.
my wife shakes her head like I basically wear clothes until they're like falling off of my body.
And then you replace that one. You don't
Yes, so
replace.
like
Okay,
I
okay, okay,
I wear
okay.
clothes until they're at a borderline unprofessional level of tatters. So uh
Okay.
and so the breakdown of any particular shirt will happen on its own
Oh,
lifelong cycle depending on what
all
travesties
right.
I inflict on it when I'm traveling and snag it going through TSA or whatever
Okay.
craziness.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Good enough. We don't need to spend any more time on that. I just want, because I'm actually doing this with my socks. And I'm going to be like, every year, I'm just going to take the old socks and get rid of them and buy a new set, the
Oh
same
no,
kind, the same ones.
thrifty frugal me kicks in. I'm like, nah, that thing
Yeah,
had life left in it. You can't. It's wasteful to
it's
just
true.
dump
It's
it
true.
and get new ones when that one had life. And I mean, yes, I
Okay.
could
I
donate it,
retract my
but
statement.
I could just keep going myself and keep wearing that. So yeah, there's probably a whole other thing to unpack in that
Yes.
mentality, but that's a conversation for another day.
Which we will have, by the way.
Okay. I've now
Okay.
set the table. We're gonna have to come
Yeah.
back to that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. What are we talking about today?
So for today's discussion, um, so I guess I have to give a little bit of context, and I'll kind of ask you the question I really want to get into with you today. Um, so one of the things that I'm finding just more and more as both we're doing a lot of practice management content, right? I'm out there speaking. I do a lot of work as faculty with Limitless Advisor, Steph Brogan's program. We're doing more and more research and data directly from the Kitces platform. And what I find just over and over and over again is that the number one thing that is dragging down sort of productivity and profitability of advisory firms is too many clients that do not pay what it takes for us to deliver the service that we deliver.
Hmm.
So Bill Backrack used to label this the like too I'm not going to do justice to his words because he was always had a gift with them. It was like too much work for too many clients for too little money. I think
Hmm.
was how he framed it. So some of us call this the small clients problem. Uh right, but that essence of look, just the hard mathematical reality. It takes a lot of time to do the work that we do. There are costs to hiring staff that it takes to run an advisory firm. And if you don't generate a certain amount of revenue per client, at least and especially for any kind of ongoing client relationship, it starts to get very challenging for the business. And lots of folks out there have various numbers for it, but we found repeatedly in our research, like it's somewhere in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, probably closer to three than two. Not coincidentally, I mean, like we see this the median subscription fee at Advice Pay is $250 a month, which
Hmm.
adds up to 3 grand a year. The most common advisor minimum is $250,000, which is about $2,500 if you charge 1%, a little bit more because often our fee schedules are a little bit higher than 1% at the smaller end of the asset scale. And mathematically, a monstrous portion of the entire US population uh, cannot afford 3 grand a year or does not have 300,000 liquid. Uh, and
That's
so,
it. Yeah.
right, I mean, that's just hard mathematical. It's not even half the
Right.
population
Right. Right.
that can do that. So, and that's not even an AUM thing, even if you're charging subscription fees. The math is still problematic. And so we live this business model where we still can't help a huge portion of the population. And most of us increasingly get into this business because we want to serve and help people.
Hmm.
So being in a helper profession that has to disqualify a significant number of people who need help because they can't pay you enough
Mm,
feels
mm,
really crappy. Uh,
mm-hmm.
and I can, share the research and the numbers as much as anyone that most of us are most of us do this to at least some extent. Many of us do it to the point that the business literally is not sustainable.
Right. Or we are, yeah, the old
And,
phrase we sometimes throw around, right? Are like burned out, piped
yeah,
to death by ducks. I can't do it anymore. I got to
yeah,
change something.
yeah. And even as much as I'm all for helping people, I get triggered when people are doing this at a level that they're burning themselves out. Right? If you
Yeah.
can't keep helping people because you burn yourself out in with an unsustainable model,
You're right.
then
Right.
you're not helping anyone in
Anyone.
the
Right.
future.
Right.
So so all of that is lead in. So the industry has a lot of conversations out there. We put some stuff out from our platform of, your metrics get better as you quote fix this problem. We can try to graduate small clients. We can set fee minimums or asset minimums. I like fee minimums. Set the price, let the client decide. Um, there's all these different business levers about how to not have so many quote small clients that your business gets undermined and becomes unsustainable. I would love to talk today about the other
Hmm.
version of this, which is
Hmm.
how can we do this in ways where we say yes?
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe yes in a way that doesn't create long-term problems that burn us out with models that aren't sustainable. But how do we do this in ways that say yes,
Hmm.
maybe some guardrails around it, instead of
Hmm.
saying no? Because the no just sucks. And
Yeah.
yes feels
Yeah.
better.
And let me clarify. Are you saying proactively find people who need help, or are you mainly saying people who come to me who I'm going to have to say
I,
no to, I want to find a way to be helpful at least?
I think it's more in the vein of people who find us. I mean, maybe we
Yeah,
could do a
a
future
referral or
episode.
whatever. Yeah, yeah,
If people
yeah.
want to have this conversation, send us emails, ping us on social. So if you, when we get the outcries, we do an episode on it. So if you want to hear about the like, how do I go out there in the community and do this, we can have that as a
Right, right,
as a
right.
future. But I'm thinking
I
more in
agree.
the
I
vein
agree.
of people find us on our website, they reach out, they get referred to us. Heaven forbid it's actually a friend or family of an existing client where there's a
Right.
whole other level of awkwardness to it. But even outside Carl, you do great work with us. Can you work with my kids as well? Uh, right. Just we get opportunities. The more we grow, the
Yeah.
more we get known in our communities, the more this tends to become a problem over time. Right. The great thing about
Yeah.
building your brand in your community is you get more ideal clients. The bad news is you also get more non-ideal
Yeah.
clients. So we've
Yeah.
all got that flow to some degree. How do we handle this in ways that are less no based than, well, we do our best work with retirees who have at least $500,000 in assets, or I have a $3,000 minimum. If that doesn't work for you, I'm happy to refer you to someone else. Uh,
Yeah.
h-
Yeah.
how do we say yes in a way that doesn't create problems later?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll take the low-hanging fruit and then we can work our way up because I'm curious to hear what you've seen. But the first thing I always found and still find that sometimes those potential clients, those people that need help, this the situation is relatively simple. Yeah, like I often like it's a relative. Now, look, I know there's outliers. Like we've got some student loan debt and we've got something else go over here, and it's actually quite complex. But often it's relatively simple. And open a Roth IRA and save $25 a month at Vanguard. Like let's just get started. Like it's good enough. So like low hanging fruit is, well, you must have met with them or at least had a conversation with them to find out that they weren't somebody that you could help as a client. And so maybe you already know enough to offer them a relatively simple piece of a relatively simple idea on how they can, I was going to say piece of advice, and we can decide whether or not it's advice or not, or how we handle that.
Yeah.
But
So
giving them a relatively simple suggestion or two. And I just want to finish this. One thing we underestimate is how valuable that is to them,
yep.
because most people don't have, like, I have no idea. I was just having this conversation with somebody 2 days ago who was like, wait, could you tell me the difference between my, like, what does my 401k earn?
Hmm.
Like that's that we all joke like that sounds so, but most people have no idea, and they shouldn't because they know about a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
So we forget how helpful it is to just clarify one little thing. And so that's really low hanging fruit, right? Of like a one
Yeah.
page email that says, "Hey, do these three things."
Yeah.
That's one idea. Where were you going?
So I think I guess just the I don't know the challenge I would extend to us. Let's take it one step further in the complexity. Because
Yeah, yeah, agree.
I think a lot of us have had those moments of, okay, I've got a prospect, we get in the conversation. It's about 5 or 7 minutes in the conversation. You realize like this is not a good fit. Um, uh, and then often we'll at least try to like, okay, well, I had a 30-minute fit meeting on the calendar. I'm going to honor this conversation, be as valuable as I can in the next 23 minutes that remain in this call before we part
Right,
ways. So tell me a little more about
right,
your situation. Okay, this isn't a great fit for us, but here are a few things that you can do. Maybe I can speak it articulate, like or concretely articulate in the meeting. If not, maybe I'll send a follow-up email with, here's two places you can open your Roth, go forth and do
right.
your thing and save your $25 a month. I'm I'm thinking a level beyond that because frankly,
Yep, yep.
I find a lot of us we have ways to disengage those. It's the ones that are a little worse, right?
Okay,
They
where are
do
you go?
have more
Where do
stuff
you?
going on. There
Yeah,
is more complexity. There
yep.
are more things happening, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with this. Oh no.
Mm.
They're a widow. The husband just died. They really have no idea what to do. They just inherited $102,000.
Mm.
It's all the money that they've got from here on out
Mm.
because unfortunately
Mm.
he didn't have any life insurance, and I have no idea what I'm going to do, and I've got two young kids. I cannot solve this in an hour or 30
Right,
minutes
right,
of a
right.
couple of things. Like you got stuff and this is heavy and you clearly are really in some need and help.
So what have you seen in the, like, what, tell me what you've seen because it's super interesting.
So the first that I've seen is a subset of advisors that take, and I feel so bad. I got this label from a particular advisor and I'm blanking on who it was, so I really want to give them credit and I can't because I am just blanking on their name. Uh they called this a barbell approach. Oh, it's
Mm.
Morgan Richard. Morgan
Mm.
Richard.
Mm.
Uh called this a barbell approach. So like look, if you think of like a barbell with weights loaded on
Right.
the bar, most advisory firms, the barbell has all the weights in the middle and then a few that kind of spread out in either direction, right? Most of my clients are average-ish, and then I got some that are smaller, and I've got some that are bigger. And if you really want to be fair, because now I'm going like nerdy distribution style, there are probably a few more weights on the small left side of the bar than the big right side of the bar, but we got a couple of like really big ones out on the far right. And those few big clients are profitable enough it offsets the fact that we've got a big chunk that are like a little bit below average and probably not that profitable. But hey, the firm as a whole
Right.
is holding up okay. Morgan's framing around this was uh I'm going to get a limited number of very high value clients and I'm charging them full rate, full freight.
Right. Right.
And that's going to basically make most of my profitability numbers for my firm to work. And then I'm gonna take a similar chunk of clients the other way. Like I forget her numbers. It was something like 25 high value clients that make the math work. and then another 10 or 20 clients at the other end of the extreme that I forget her model. She charged either nothing or very, very little.
Hmm.
Very conscious, like she's not even vaguely remotely trying to make them profitable.
Mm.
But there's only a limited number of seats for the ones who can fit the barbell at the left because you don't want to tilt the barbell and
Right.
make it fall over.
Right.
Gotta keep it in client load balance. So there's only a certain number of them, and everyone else is at the other end of the barbell to make sure it stays balanced. So she doesn't have a
Hmm.
bunch in the middle and then a bunch smaller ones on the left because then the bar falls over. She's
Right.
taken all the one. I mean, I'm trying to overemphasize the barbell analogy, but I think it's actually a really good visual as people are listening. I'm like drawing with my hands for the people who are watching this on video.
Right. Right.
Uh, but this idea, like, Morgan has no average clients. None of her clients are at the average because they're all wildly higher or wildly lower.
Right. Right.
And that's how she
Right.
keeps the barbell in balance. And
Yeah.
so when you do your best work with a small subset of people or large, you can choose your own numbers of how many clients you want to serve. Uh, but when you do your best work with a focused subset of people that truly pay the full dollar amount it takes to be financially strong and successful as a firm, and then you want to do some things for other clients, now it's fine because she's not taking so many, it makes the barbell lopsided, and she has enough high value clients that the firm is financially healthy regardless of whether they generate a material revenue of the clients at the other end. And now she can simply keep a certain number of slots to serve the people at the other end of the barbell the way that she wants to serve them without being tied up with, is this, profitable enough client for me who meets my minimums?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Does that work? Because I remember years ago there was a firm that started in Tucson and Bob Swift, TCI Wealth Management, and Bob was like as I recall, and I know Bob, but as I recall, son of a pastor, and he started teaching these workshops in the public library.
Yeah.
And at first it was free, and then he started charging like $25 to come to the workshop. And people kept saying, "Take my money, take my like, will you manage my money?" And he was like, "No, no, leave me alone." Like, and then like
So
it grew
his,
into
so
this
his like graceful give back to the public for free accidentally turned out to be a business development
this
strategy.
really amazing business that they've built. But Bob was always trying to figure out how do I get back.
Yeah.
Like suddenly we found ourselves calculating the tax deduction on the private jet and like
Yeah.
how did I get back? And as I recall, they started a separate division, maybe even a foundation that was
Interesting.
specifically focused on, and it was, as I recall, it was really disciplined oriented. Like you had to meet with them, you had to have an automatic investment, you had to be committed to it. If you were committed, they were going to commit resources to it.
Interesting.
And I always wonder if like that, like where that falls apart is where if those client situations are very complex and demand a lot of time, because I always wonder, can you run a division of your business? Could you run a foundation? Could you even run a break even division of your business? Or is it always going to be supplemented by either A, charity, or B, the profit margins from another side of the client business?
I feel like at the end of the day, I mean, just math is math. It has to, it
Yeah, we've
has
done this
costs to
before.
deliver these services. The money has to come from somewhere. So
And it's
clients are
just not
paying,
going to
your
be enough.
margins are paying, or charitable donations are paying. I don't know where else
Yeah.
the dollars.
Yeah,
Um,
so that was, I guess that's the other version of this is you set up a very specific,
yeah,
where this is it is actually called what it actually is, and that's a charitable, like
yeah.
a foundation where you're doing your own work, and you can do then you get really quickly into the model of like I could send people to pro bono places and I could volunteer my time there. So I don't even have to set up the charity.
True, true. I mean, I think
Let me ask you a
yeah,
question.
yeah.
What are we trying to solve for? Because this gets, doesn't this get really like this is
I'm, I,
really
I'm.
it's a feeling we're trying to solve for. Like we don't like saving no, we want to help more people. Or are we trying to solve a global problem where there's not enough advice for people who need it?
No, again, though, like, how do we expand the reach of advice for the fact that there just literally
Okay,
aren't enough
that's
advisors for all the consumers? Uh, I think that's a conversation for another day. Again, we can come
okay.
back to that, but
Right, right, right.
I'm just
This is
thinking the like we get these scenarios and saying no sucks and saying
right.
minimum
Okay.
sucks slightly less, but it's still pretty sucky. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
like what are the versions of yes?
Yeah,
Uh,
I like that. That's a different,
yeah.
that's a very different question than how do we solve the global problem of the shortage of advice. And as
But
part of this is feelings, but it's like, how do we solve this locally on a local level ourselves?
I mean, in the vein of what you were just highlighting, to me, the next is, maybe there's a one to many thing. I mean, maybe there's a group
I
thing.
love that.
Maybe it
Yeah.
is
Yep.
like, oh, we teach a financial foundations class at the library every year
Yep.
or every quarter or every month or every Saturday morning if that's your jam to achieve your cosmic karma balance. And like, hey, I don't know, I don't know that you're a great fit for the ongoing advice services that we offer, but we have a financial foundations workshop that runs every Saturday morning or
Yep.
every first Saturday of the month or whatever it is. We'd love for you to come to it. Here's the information. It's only a $25 entry fee if we're going to use TCI's example, and like people having a couple of dollars of skin in the game. So great. Now instead of I can take on some number of these, I could take on 20 or 30 or 40 of these of the barbell at the other end of the barbell to balance the high dollar end of the barbell. It's like, no, like we're gonna workshops. Like I wonder if I can do 40 of these every workshop if we get
Yeah.
enough people who are reaching out and asking for help and services, and God bless, maybe we'll even build a word of mouth thing around it and it gets more popular over
Yeah.
time.
I love that idea of basically like group financial coaching,
Yeah,
and
coaching, education.
especially around a niche, right? Like if we have a specific niche,
You
excuse me.
we I don't. You said it right the first
If
time.
we have
Don't
a if
start
we
with
have a
me.
specific if we have a specific
Niche.
problem that we're trying to solve, then it makes it very like even the idea of financial circles where you've got
Yep.
there may even be some collective value between the group
Yep.
accountability. I've seen models that way too, of like, yeah, I can't help you there, but we do this thing. We do it once a quarter. It's 7 weeks. We meet every Wednesday night at at 7:30 or at 9 o'clock after the kids are in bed,
Yep.
and it's an hour, and we have 12 people,
Yep.
and there's 10 spots, so we have two
Yep.
left. Would you like to join? That would be amazing, and it's for, you
Yep.
know,
And
XYZ.
and again, I just think about those in because like I'm a reach impact guy, like how those cycle over time. I mean, your example, it's 7 weeks and we take a dozen people through at a time. Like, cool. So
Yeah.
if I'm really jazzed for this, I mean, I could run 4 to 6 of these a year through each cycle. Assuming I want to get a little bit of holidays vacation there. So great.
Yeah.
50 plus
Yeah.
people a year,
Yeah.
500 people over the next decade. I'm
Yeah.
never going to have
Yeah.
500 clients in my advisory firm. Like I'm
Yeah.
now helping
Yeah.
way more people with my 7 week cycling program, a 7 week program that I'm cycling through
I
than
I
I'll
love that.
ever help as individual clients in the advisory firm. And I can charge a nominal amount if I want to, but it's not the point's not the money. This is your pro bono time. This is your give back time. This is
Totally.
your uh
I
trigger.
wish more, I really wish more real like certified financial planners who know what they're doing, because there are a bunch of financial influencers who are doing this sort of stuff
Yep.
and they don't know what they're doing and they're causing, I mean, some of them do, of course, but whatever. I
Because that's
just
a good
wish,
point. And if you really want to amp it up, you don't do it in your local library. You do it on TikTok and see if you can build a giant following.
yeah, but wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if there was 1,000 certified, there were 1,000 CFPs who each had built small
Yeah.
one to many online course. And like now we start to see compounding impact because other people are doing it and they don't have the chops that you have.
Yeah.
Like I love that model because that's like, okay, what does that turn into? Well, it's a book. You want to go a little deeper? You every
Yeah.
quarter we do a 7 week thing and we'll take you through it. And guess what? It's a curriculum. Guess what? You don't have to teach it. After you do it a couple rounds, you've got a junior advisor does it. You've got an intern who does it. People come through. Like you could start scaling that.
Yeah.
And even if you never scale it and you just do one a quarter for 12 people, right? Like even that, the impact you will make is so important. And we're clearly not going to serve all the people
Yeah.
that we need to serve and we need to do something, right?
The the other model of this that I would highlight was advisor I bumped into a couple of years ago who basically outright said like he was I don't know quite at the level that you mentioned earlier, but I mean he was moving in the direction of my business now is mostly helping my clients calculate the tax deduction on their private jet, right? He kind of
Right. Right.
evolved that direction and pretty much outright said like it's been very good to me and financially successful, and I have like mountain loads of guilt around the
Right.
fact
Right.
that like this is what my life has become. uh
Right.
that like it's very remunerative and I'm helping these people in really meaningful ways. It's like and I help people optimize the tax deductions on their private jets now.
Right.
And his solution for it was that he laid out an offering that uh he would do 2 1 hour financial planning advice sessions every Friday. It's like 2 to 4 or 3 to 5 in the
Mm,
afternoon or something.
mm,
Um,
mm,
you just Calendly set up and stuff like you scheduled online. It was $50 for the one
mm.
hour, so meant to be very accessible. And and that was his Friday afternoon routine every week.
So good. That's great.
So he was like, "Look, I help 100 people every year,
Yeah.
2 every Friday, 50 weeks. Take
Right.
take, take
Right.
one or
It's just
take one or two off." He's like,
compounding.
I am like recycling my karma back into the world in a positive way, as
Love that.
as proactively as I can. And he said like the key for it, he kind of took this to an extreme. Like I'm gonna not do justice to how he framed it, but he says basically, my goal is to be as ridiculously helpful for you in the hour that I possibly can be. But we're trying to help a lot of people. It's like you get an hour, you can't come back.
Yeah.
We're here to help as many people as we possibly can in this time window. And there were
Yeah.
sort of two interesting things that came from it. One, just I think he had a it was really cool to say he was like helping 100 people in need every year to offset the private jet clients. But like the thing that had caught my eye around it as well is look what bogs down most of us down sometimes to the point that we create burnout and sustainability issues. It's not that you helped them. It's that most of us only have one model, which is we have like long-term ongoing clients we work with on a permanent lifetime basis. My goal is to be here until you die and then work with your kids and your grandchildren. And that's a lot of hours and like a really valuable seat on the bus for someone to take permanently.
Yeah.
And the essence of what he was doing was, instead of having, I don't know, 2 of his very high dollar clients where he probably spends 50 hours a year, 100 hours for 2 clients, he's like, I don't want 2 clients to take this slot. I'm going to help 100 people by not making it a
Yeah.
slot that any one client can take. It has
Yeah.
to be a constant flow
Mm.
and rotation of them. And I know his was a little extreme with the like you get 1 hour, you can't come back.
No,
We're gonna
I
make it
love that.
as valuable as possible. But to me, just there's an underlying piece that I thought was really striking, which is just when you approach it to say the work we're gonna do when we're gonna say yes and not no is hourly. It's not because hourly is like magically profitable. In fact, he charged way below his hourly rate. He again just really wanted, I think, people to have skin in the game. He didn't care about the money. It was didn't add up materially for him. Uh, it's that when you do it hourly instead of one client that you're going to serve 5 or 10 or 20 hours a year or whatever your service model is, it's not one client 20 hours, it's 20 clients 20 hours.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
now just the number of people that you can help in a meaningful enough way that you're going to spend a really focused hour. And I don't know, you don't have to do it at his level of extreme. Maybe you can give them up to 5 hours worth if they want to buy 5 hours. But just that idea that if you make the advice much more limited scope by the hour for a very limited number of hours, we're not here to do a comprehensive financial plan for you. Now you're back in the selling $3,000 financial plans business. Like, I'm going
Yep.
to spend time with you and be as awesomely impactful as I can in the meeting. We're going to pull things
Right.
up on the screen and get stuff done in these meetings to help you
Right.
advance forward. And if I keep the scope that focused, I can just help a lot more people. So now it's not
Yeah.
even a yes versus no. It's a I could say yes every time they do it. I mean, most of us, even as many of those as we get, it's not that many. I'm betting if you committed no more than 2 hours to every single one, you could cycle through all of the ones that you get in a year, and it
And
won't even
add
take
meaningful, yeah, and add a meaningful impact to their
add
lives.
meaningful impact for them, and it won't even take you 2 hours every Friday that it did him because most of us don't have
Mhm.
that many people. Not
No, I
not
love that. Plus, the other benefit of that is just reps anyway. And I don't even like even if you don't think of it as marketing, like forget that. Like
yeah.
there's a world in which that is great marketing, but forget that for a second for this discussion. It's just reps and help, and you feel good about it. I remember seeing there was this architect once who was trying to build his architecture business, and remember, wasn't it Lucy who would set up Lucy and Peanuts that would set up that little stand that would be like advice or something a quarter?
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah, and Peanuts. He did that at the local farmers market. It said architectural ideas, a quarter. You would come and they would say like, I want to do this with my bathroom, and he would draw right there and just be like, here. And I just always found that I was like, I one time I wanted to do that at our local farmer, like financial ideas or financial. I don't know that I'd say financial advice, but financial
Yeah.
ideas.
Then I gotta
You
have
have
an
a
advisory contract with all
yeah,
the
you have financial questions. I've got an answer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just like the thing I liked about this model you're pointing to is mainly the reps, just the chance to make a difference. So I think that's a great way to be able to say yes.
Well, I suppose in
Love
that
that.
vein, if you're talking about getting reps in, there's again now we're gonna get into the how do we actually expand the reach, but I don't know if you're a larger firm, like do all of your associate advisors need to do this 2 hours every Friday indefinitely? Because it's just going to get them reps with another 100 clients of practice having conversations and getting to know and understand folks because you're trying to get them more client exposure before they work with the firm's bread and butter clients where the dollar stakes are higher.
Totally. Love that, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.